All right, so I think we'll get started. Again, thank you for joining us for the D2R Masters and Doctoral Scholar Awards information session. Within D2R, this is the first trainee targeted funding program, so we're very excited for all the interest. And so thank you for coming today, and I hope that after today's session, you've learned more about the program and are excited to apply before June 20th. So I will be speaking today, as well as Professor Emily Canal-Vallet, who I'll now allow to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amélie Canal-Vallet. I'm the D2R Associate Scientific Director, and I have the pleasure of chairing the D2R Student Training and Knowledge Development Committee. And so I'm here in that capacity.
And I'm Anthony, so I'm the D2R Training Program Officer. So I'm kind of my role within D2R is anything that is trainee focused. For example, the training program that we're working to develop, as well as the development of this funding program, which you are interested in and here to hear about today. And so just a general overview of what today's session will include. Professor Canal-Vallet will provide a brief description about what D2R is to kind of whet your appetite, if you will, to learn more on our website and through other forums about the initiative. And then I will provide a little more background on the Scholar Awards and the D2R training program to complement what is already available on the D2R website, as well as provide some guidance and tips on the preparation of your actual application. And at the end, we will have a time for a Q&A session. And so for the Q&A session, I just wanted to draw your attention to some logistics. So during the Q&A, if you could please use the Zoom Q&A function to ask your question or request to unmute yourself during this period. Yes, Emily.
We see in the chat there's no audio. Someone is saying they don't have audio. Can folks maybe thumbs up if you do hear us? So, okay, I see a raise. Yeah,
Okay.
so Opeo Lua, I think maybe it's on your end. You may want to double check your settings on the speaker.
Okay.
Thank you, folks, for the
Yes, thank
interaction.
you very much. And so with that, I will pass it off to Professor Canal-Vallet, who will now speak about the D2R initiative as a whole.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm going to be very brief because I know you want the scoop on the program and you probably already know a little bit about the D2R, but just a few words to let you know that this is a very exciting and novel initiative. It is part of the Canada First Research Excellence Fund, Apogee in French, more aptly named in French. So, reach for the top. And it is the largest grant that McGill has received, so $165 million from this grant, from this fund, plus also a lot of partners, and this will run until 2030. So there is time to support you and to support your research. And so if we go to the next slide, speaking about the boldness of the vision, the idea behind D2R is to deliver genomic-based RNA therapies to benefit the health of different populations. So this is really the idea is to be more inclusive in our approach and notably to work with trainees in developing that capacity in a diverse group of trainees. And the initial target outcomes that we are looking at are infectious, rare, and neglected diseases, or some common chronic diseases such as cancer. We have the also foundational axes that are important. So in crafting your application, you want to think about these priority disease areas, whether you're contributing to RNA research across the broad spectrum of perspectives that we cover at D2R, including that range here in the foundational axes that you see from 1 to 6. From population studies and genomic medicine, RNA therapeutics, bioprocessing, biomanufacturing, and nanotechnology, clinical research, acceleration and implementation, data science, bioinformatics and statistics in personalized medicine, and ethical, socioeconomic, and cultural dimensions in genomic research. And everything that cross-cuts, right? Transversal initiatives are more than welcome. So next slide, please. And as I mentioned, we have a range of partners, a number of academic institutions. Some of you may be coming from these academic institutions. Bienvenue si vous venez de Sherbrooke ou de l'Université d'Ottawa et vous êtes francophone, vous avez pas pendant ma présentation, mais celle de Anthony, il va y avoir des sous-titres qui sont traduits en français. And of course, we have a range of private partners who are interested in bringing some of your skills to bear on their activities. And Anthony will maybe like slip in a word, or we can in the Q&A about internships. That's still to come, but it is definitely part of our thinking. International also partners, not only Canadian, but also international, and a lot of public sector partners are also very much interested. And so really this is what scaffolds the D2R Scholars Award, which is, as Anthony mentioned, we are launching the first competition right now as we speak, and we're excited for you to learn more about it. And we've already gotten lots of questions, a lot of appetite, obviously, with 104 of you here today. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Anthony.
Thank you very much, Emily. So before I dive into the Scholar Awards specifically, I wanted to discuss a bit about how D2R and the D2R initiative is looking to support trainees. Because fundamentally, supporting and training of trainees, namely graduate and postdoctoral fellows, working on D2R-aligned research projects is an essential step to ensure the long-term impact and sustainability of the D2R initiative. Because the D2R funding will dry up at some point, but hopefully the seeds we plant will grow to become something much better. And so, namely, D2R is looking to support trainees through two main avenues. One is financial support, and two is through developmental or training support. This developmental training support will be delivered through something we're calling the D2R training program. And so there are a couple different ways in which D2R is looking to distribute financial support to trainees. First of all, as of last year, there is support of trainees built in to the program grants received by PIs from D2R. And so these are trainees who are working on D2R funded projects whose stipends are being fully or partially paid by this D2R grant. And so the programs that this has been built into are the Foundational and Research in Motion grants and the Translational Impact Research D2R grants. Now we are looking to support trainees and award trainees directly through the D2R Scholar Awards. And so this new program is the highest recognition available to D2R trainees and awards outstanding and active trainees across all 6 of D2R's foundational axes. So here we're looking for trainees who want to be a part of the community, want to move beyond just the research they're doing in their lab, learn more about D2R, engage in our training program. And with that comes the developmental support that will be that both of these groups of people being financially supported within D2R will be part of, which is the D2R training program. And I'll explain a bit more detail about the D2R training program coming up in a minute. But at this point, I just wanted to specifically highlight that this training program we will be offering will be open to anyone who within the D2R community who would like to participate. So if you, through the information session today, you realize that you're maybe not eligible or not ready to apply for the Scholar Awards, but you're very curious about what's going on in D2R, please keep paying attention to our social channels and reach out if you'd like to be added to mailing lists so that you learn about the D2R training program, which will be launching shortly. And so what this training program will aim to do is provide leading edge interdisciplinary training that complements your coursework, your research activities, and other available training opportunities. And as I mentioned, this will be launching shortly, and we're aiming for fall 2025. And so I wanted to highlight this piece about complementing other available training opportunities as what we are looking to offer is D2R specific. So we're not looking to repeat things that are already offered by good training services at McGill or externally. We're trying to build something unique to D2R that will enable participants to, one, improve as graduate student researchers. Perhaps this is integrating some things that are core to D2R into their research project, for example, better data science principles into their research. We also are aiming for participants to become active members of the collaborative D2R research community. And so this will be work to expose people to more of the research going on within D2R, as well as training on what research collaboration entails. As well, we are looking for participants to gain skills and experience to help build their careers. So we're really looking for people within the training program who want to join and who want to apply for the Scholar Awards, people who are looking forward, not just looking down, if you will, at the lab bench if you happen to work in a lab. And so within this training program, to provide a bit more detail, this will be composed of a small number of mandatory training workshops and events for training award holders and D2R Scholar Award holders. So there, we are planning a fall orientation session to cover kind of the beginning of goal setting, community building, and a larger introduction to the D2R initiative, including some of those core elements which I alluded to earlier, namely incorporating equity, diversity, and inclusion principles within research, as EDI is a core component of everything D2R does, as well as data science principles and other elements of D2R. Additionally, some other mandatory training workshops and events that we are planning will be, as I alluded to, a research collaboration workshop, as well as a career-focused event, all building towards the annual symposium, where trainees will not only have opportunities to integrate into the D2R community, but also to share their research within that group. And so now that I've kind of provided an overview of the D2R training program, let's dive in. Oh, screwed up a transition, but that's okay. So the additional components of this mandatory of the D2R training program will be optional, complementary, and customizable components. So there will be these mandatory components, as well as um, some complementary options, such as, for example, offering a module specifically about data science. So if you're interested in what you see at the mandatory event and want to dive in deeper, you can do that. If you want to attend a D2R focused seminar, that will be part of the D2R training program umbrella, as well as something that we're very interested in launching is a trainee committee for trainees to actually develop programming by trainees for trainees. And so this is something that has been pioneered in other initiatives similar to D2R, and we're very excited for that to become part of our D2R training environment as well. And so with that, now I will get into the details about the D2R Masters and Doctoral Scholar Awards that we're all here today to learn about. So I just wanted to bring your attention back to the D2R website, where in the funding opportunities, you will be able to find detailed information about the Scholar Awards. And so I will pick out some highlights of that for you today, but as well as provide some guidance, but all of the information that you should fall back on is there, as well as complemented by some information provided today. And so, as was specified online and mentioned earlier, the application deadline for the Scholars Awards is June 20th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So you have to have all of your documents ready, and so this is when we will shut the form down. So if you've started the form but haven't submitted by 5 p.m., you will be past the deadline. And so with this this deadline, I know it's coming up relatively quickly, but that's because we really want to launch the Scholar Awards for fall 2025, which means anticipated announcement will occur in August. And so in terms of the funding per award, master's scholars will receive $27,000 for 1 year, while doctoral awardees will receive $40,000 per year for 2 years. And here I wanted to highlight that we are building in a possible 1-year renewal process, and this will involve for trainees who still have part of their doctoral studies to complete, of course, and this will require a demonstration of research progress and a history of active involvement in the D2R training program. And so while detailed eligibility requirements are outlined on the D2R website, I wanted to highlight a couple select requirements for you today, as many of the questions we have received about the program thus far are regarding specific eligibility concerns and considerations. And so it's important that your proposed research is aligned with the overall goals of D2R and that you can clearly tie it to at least one D2R foundational axis. So if you are unsure if your research is aligned with D2R, I would highly recommend you go on the D2R website, read in detail the descriptions of the priority disease areas, as well as the foundational axes, and think about if your research, if you can argue that your research or draw a link in your research between those elements of D2R and the project you're proposing. Because fundamentally, it is the applicant's job to try to convince the reviewers who will have the final say that they are that your project is linked with the with D2R and the foundational axes. And so this program is open to Canadian and international students, but specifically I wanted to highlight that you cannot, for the period of funding you're applying for, you cannot hold another fellowship at the same time as the Scholar Awards. And so at the time of application, applicants must both have a designated research supervisor and be registered in the first year of a master's program or in the first 3 years of a doctoral program. And so this can be at McGill or one of D2R's partner institutions, which Emily mentioned earlier, are UBC, U Ottawa, Sherbrooke, IRCM, or McMaster. And then there's just an additional caveat here that if you're not at McGill, but you're registered and studying at one of the partner institutions, you must be supervised by a D2R eligible PI. And so your PI, if you're unsure if this is the case, please ask your PI. They should be aware. And if there's still some uncertainty there, please reach out to us and we can quickly verify whether the professor you're working for is a D2R eligible researcher. And so I just wanted to highlight a couple other questions that we've received about eligibility. So one is that if you are currently a master's student but are transitioning or fast tracking to the doctoral program for the fall, we request that you apply to the doctoral program, as this will be the program you are in when you are engaging in the Scholar Awards once you've received the Scholar Awards. And so any other specific questions about your eligibility, unless you feel that your question is general for a wide audience, we ask that you explain your specific case by email to d2rtraining@mcgill.ca, as we'll be able to give you the best recommendation there on a one-on-one basis. And so moving on from eligibility, I just wanted to take the time to highlight, as I mentioned earlier, that equity, diversity, and inclusion is at the core of D2R and is, of course, then placed as a high priority within every part of the initiative, including the Scholar Awards. And so because of this, all applicants must complete the D2R self-identification survey and confirm completion of this in the application form. Now, of course, within this survey, if you choose not to answer specific questions, that's totally fair and you can do so, but we still ask you that you go and complete the form. Additionally, training in EDI offered by D2R, specifically to support the integration of EDI in your research design, will be a requirement and part of the D2R training program that D2R Scholar Award recipients must participate in. As well, I just wanted to highlight that we welcome and strongly encourage applications from all students across our community, and especially those from equity-deserving groups. As well, there is a component you will see in the application where you can optionally signal any leave and explain any leave or other circumstances that have affected your productivity. And persons or anyone with any disabilities that might affect how you can engage with the application process, please contact us in confidence and we will help provide accommodations for any accommodations you might need. And finally, during the evaluation phase, all expert evaluators will receive guidance to ensure the equitable evaluation of all applicants, and that will come from the senior EDI advisor at D2R. And so with that, that's kind of a general overview of the program. And now I wanted to provide some specific guidelines and tips, if you will, on the preparation of your application. And so there are several components of the application. Namely, there's an online application form that we ask that you fill out. And in this form, there is a link and required confirmation of completion of the D2R self-identification survey, which I mentioned earlier, as well as the opportunity to upload 5 required documents and 1 optional document. And I'll talk through these documents in a bit more detail, but I wanted to mention that you must follow the format requirements. And I wanted to highlight that even once you've had all the documents prepared, I've gone through and practiced this, it will take you at least 10 to 15 minutes to complete the application form. So please don't start it at 4:55 on June 20th because I don't think you'll get done in time. Give yourself some time, have the components prepared as PDF files in advance, and you can screen the application form. All of the important information is input on the first page, so you can screen it before you even start preparing your application so that you can be ready to sit down and just take 15 minutes to complete the form once you have all your documents prepared. And so on this online application form, I wanted to highlight a couple key areas. One is there are some elements that are there to help ensure your application is reviewed by experts in your field. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the selection of the foundational axis is something that you declare, and then you are responsible for describing how your research aligns with that within the research proposal element, which I'll touch on in a minute. And so this will be used to kind of match you along with the 5 keywords that you input to describe your research project with the most appropriate expert evaluators for your application. So this is a very important step if you want your application reviewed by experts in your field. As well, I would advise you utilize the application form to get a better idea of how we are looking for ways for you to participate in the D2R community itself. So there are several examples, excuse me, outlined in the application form for ways we're looking for people to contribute to the D2R community. And so please look at these options that are also outlined in the information on the D2R website and select from these potential options. And we are asking you to explain how you would like to integrate into the community within your letter of motivation in more detail. So it would be ideal if you link what you submit in the application form and build on that in your letter of motivation. So that's an important point to strengthen your letter of motivation, as well as for you to get a better idea of what the D2R community will look like. And so following completion of all the information input areas of the form, you will have your research proposal. And so I wanted to highlight that 50% of the evaluation of your application, the scoring of it, is the research proposal itself. So for the master's program, we're asking for a maximum of 1-page written proposal, and the doctoral program 2 pages. And so in both cases, references can be included on an additional page. So for the master's program, you can have 1 page plus a second page that includes only references. And for the doctoral program, 2 pages with a third additional page that only includes references. And these references, of course, are important elements, for example, in the background and kind of setting up of your research questions. And so within the research proposal, the 3 required subheading and subsections that I will explain in a minute, the background and rationale, research plan and methods, and the D2R alignment section, along with a score for overall quality by the evaluators, are each weighted equally. So if you will, each of these 4 elements are 1/4 of the score for the entire research proposal. And so that first subsection is the background and rationale. And this is where we are looking for you to provide context to the reviewer about why your research project is important. And so, because while the researcher who's reviewing your application might be an expert in your field, that doesn't mean they know the in and outs of the specific research questions that you're going to be looking to investigate. And so some questions I suggest you answer in this background and rationale section is what is known in the field that is relevant to your research project, kind of what is currently known, and then what is not known that you want to learn, and especially why is learning this important? And if you want to link why is learning this important to some of the core elements of D2R, that would be an ideal application. And so additionally, we want you to suggest why are you in your situation and in your research group ideally suited to study this problem. So what precedent is there within your group, for example, to answer questions similar to this? And finally, as I mentioned earlier, citing important references in your field is a critical element of this section. And so while the background and rationale section is the first element of the research proposal. The bulk of it likely will come into this section, which is the research plan and methods section. So here you outline what are the objectives of your project and what methods will you use to achieve them. And so in this section, we are asking or looking, reviewers will be looking for you to clearly outline your objectives and explain how each objective contributes to the overall project. So what's the overall project and what are the specific objectives? And it's important that you organize this in a logical order. And I wanted to mention you can use visuals where appropriate, just that small figures will be included in that maximum word count. Maximum page count, excuse me. So if you're a master's student and you want to include a figure, that must be included in that one-page portion of the research proposal. As well as in the methods section, we want you to clearly communicate alongside each objective what method or methods or strategy, depending on your field of research, you will employ, and why this method is well suited to achieve these goals. Is there precedent for this method? Are you developing a new, better method? Those sort of things. As well, it's important to ensure that this entire section is cohesive and easy to follow, because this will also be important for the overall quality of the research proposal portion, which the reviewers are also looking at, as well as just being important for this subsection. As well, I wanted to mention the last subsection is the D2R alignment subsection. And this is how we've mentioned throughout this presentation is where you can convince the reviewers that the project aligns with D2R. And to do this, first, I would suggest you go on the D2R website, convince yourself, if you can, I hope you can, that your research project is aligned with D2R, and then work on ways to frame your research project within the confines of what's aligned with D2R. Because here a clear link is required for funding because this is the D2R initiative, so we're looking to fund research projects and trainees working under our umbrella. And so that wraps up what is included in the research proposal. And now the next very exciting, important element of the application is the letter of motivation, because this is where you get to show off and explain why you want to be part of this program and how you want to be involved in this program. Because the Scholar Awards are designed for trainees who want to both take advantage of the training program that will be going on within the Scholar Awards and within D2R, as well as be active members of our community. And so here we're looking for you to be specific about three things: your academic career goals and how being a D2R scholar will help you achieve them. And here I wanted to mention be honest, because the reviewers are specifically instructed to not judge your career goals. It's okay if you don't want to be a PI. I didn't want to be a PI, and I hopefully would have been funded by the Scholars Program if I'd applied. But it's important to link your career goals with this program and why this program and funding will help you achieve those. Additionally, you should explain how you would like to contribute to the training program. So this is, as I mentioned, is calling back to on the application form how you specified you'd like to contribute and integrate into the community in the training program, as well as providing any other ideas you have. We're looking for trainee-led programming, so if you have a great idea, please include it here and we'll be excited to discuss it with you. And so finally, the last element, an important element, is element 2 is what you'd like to give to the program and be part of it. Element 3 is what do you hope to gain? So what do you want to contribute? What do you hope to get out of it? And so this can be, we're looking for, again, specific ideas of how you want to benefit. And this can, of course, be tied to number 1, specifically if they're career goal oriented. But also there's elements that we're looking to build within the training program and within D2R that are not linked to career goals. For example, maybe you think that this is a great way to incorporate a social science perspective in your research. Explain that here. Maybe you want to become part of the larger community because you're looking for mentoring. Explain that here, because those are the kind of things we're interested in hearing. And so after the letter of motivation, the biosketch is an additional component of the application process. And so for the biosketch, we're asking that you follow the provided template. This just makes it much easier on the evaluation end and also provides a framework to you for what we're looking for. As well, we're asking you to support the biosketch with a separate PDF document containing all of your official transcripts as one PDF. And so within the BioSketch, along with the expected kind of academic history, academic accomplishments, publications, we're also looking for you to include efforts you've made to communicate your research outside of academic journals, like what presentations have you given, what articles have you been on, written articles, have you been on podcasts, et cetera, have you gone to community events? And so don't only focus on academic contributions, please include, if you feel them relevant, community outreach that you've done and your non-academic achievements that you feel are relevant for the evaluation of your profile for the Scholar Awards. And so before we kind of dive into the Q&A section, I wanted to highlight some elements of the evaluation process that aren't necessarily maybe super clear because I've received some questions about them. One is that applications will be separated by those foundational axes and keywords and evaluated by experts in your knowledge field. So this is, again, an important element, as well as master's and doctoral applicants will be evaluated in separate competitions. And so before we dive into the Q&A, I wanted to kind of frame a question. Who is a D2R scholar? What are we looking for in a D2R scholar? We're looking for someone who is currently working on or will be working on a research project that is aligned with D2R, someone who has a strong academic record, someone who is interested in learning more about RNA therapeutics and genomic medicine. I know this is a very exciting field right now and that D2R is perfectly situated to take advantage and push these fields forward. And also someone who's interested in integrating those, maybe if you're in human genetics and you want to integrate a social science perspective because you're doing research that involves DNA editing, for example. And so as well, we want someone who wants to become an active member of the collaborative and inclusive, importantly, D2R community, as well as someone who isn't just thinking about their graduate studies, but someone who either is or wants to visualize and plan their future career. So if this sounds like you, please apply for the D2R Scholar Awards by June 20th. And obviously, we have a finite funding envelope for this program. So if you apply and in this round you aren't successful, or you decide that you're not ready to apply this year, please remember that the D2R training program, which will be launching in fall 2025, is open to everyone. So we really hope that you will participate in that, even if you aren't able to be part of the D2R Scholar Awards program. And so with that, I will now open the floor to you for a question and answer period. As a reminder, please ask questions by using the Zoom Q&A function or by requesting to unmute yourself and asking out loud. And yeah, so I'm happy to see and hear your questions, and I'll just check on the Q&A now.
And then yeah,
Looks like Emily would like to answer some
no,
questions.
I was trying to write.
Okay.
I was thinking I could type the answers, but I'll let you answer them if you
Okay.
see them.
Um, and so so it looks like all of the questions we have. First, someone asked, I'll answer this one quickly. Someone asked, is there a minimum GPA requirement? The answer is strictly no. Anyone can apply. And then your BioSketch will be analyzed as a whole, and that is 25% of the evaluation. So there's no strict limit for GPA. Now, obviously, the wording for the evaluation of your application is that um, your history kind of projects a future success in the program. So that can also be highlighted by your community engagement or your extracurricular activities or previous success during your studies if your GPA maybe wasn't where you would have liked it to be. Now, another question that questions are flying in. I'll just go from the top. So is there a limit to how many people from the same lab supervisor can apply for this scholarship? Here, for this edition of the D2R Scholar Awards, we are not setting a limit for the same lab or supervisor. However, one of the things D2R is interested in doing is supporting a wide swath of funding. And so that's important to consider, is that if many people in your lab apply, it's unlikely that several people within the same group will be funded. Um, because we are looking to support people across all of the different axes, and we have a finite number of awards to give out. And I'll just, how many applicants are you accepting is another question that was asked. Um, and so this is flexible at this time. The ballpark numbers that I will share is about 10 master's awards and about 20 doctoral awards, but this will change depending on application pressure in the different programs. Um, Another anonymous question, is PR included in the Canadian students? Given that we are both, Emily, at any point, if you want to jump in, please feel free to do so. PR included, so in this program, we're not designating a preference for Canadian or for international students. So as long as you are studying at McGill or one of the partner institutions, you'll be evaluated on a level playing field with anyone else, whether you're Canadian, international, permanent resident, or anything. Um, okay. So for career goals in the motivation letter, if we are still unsure exactly what we want to do, would it be better to list a few options that we are considering or to give more details on a single option? So that I can only provide advice, as I won't be the person actually evaluating the letter of motivation. That will be evaluated by the up to 3 expert evaluators. But I would recommend that if you specify specific career, not like necessarily a specific career, but specific things you're interested in that are aligned with what we're trying to do with this program, because that will be, you'll be able to draw a link. For example, if you are interested in pursuing a career in RNA therapeutics, potentially, but you're not sure if you want to work in the more on the biomanufacturing side or work in a more on the fundamental science side. I would highlight the things that are linked with D2R and kind of go into detail more about how you think those things will be answered, and you can work on them in the program. As well as, I suggest, if you're curious, we will have sessions where you can see options out there. So that would also be something valid that could be gained from this program, is simply becoming exposed to other career options that are out there. How many scholarships will be awarded? Okay. Um, so there is a question, in the case of fast-tracked PhD, do MSc years count as part of the 3 years cap? So I can answer this specifically for McGill. I'm not sure the case at the partner institution. So if this question was posed by someone at a partner institution, um, or you're interested, if that's your case, please email us and I'll look into that in more depth. But at McGill, my understanding is that if you spend 1 year in the master's program and you fast track, you are registered into PhD 2. So that means that that 1 year of the master's will count because you've effectively skipped PhD 1, so you're registered in PhD 2. So if you've been in your group for 3 years, and you spent 1 year in the master's program and 2 years in the PhD program, from McGill's perspective, you're considered as a 3rd-year PhD student. And I hope that answered your question, Zabi. And if you have more specific information, please email us at D2R Training. So am I still eligible if I previously held a federally funded doctoral award? Yes. As long as you have you fit into all the other eligibility requirements. So for example, if you had a 1 year NSERC Masters or CIHR or SHRC Masters Award, and you're going into your 2nd year of your Masters, yes, you're eligible to apply as long as you don't have a parallel, in your case, you're a doctoral student, my apologies. But let's say you had a 1 year doctoral award from your institute or federally, then you're still eligible to apply as long as you're in the first 3 years of your doctoral program. Another anonymous question. Does the research proposal have to have explanation of how EDI is incorporated into the project, or is this something that the trainees would achieve throughout the training program? This is a great question, and this was actually a topic of discussion internally at D2R when we were designing the program. And our view is that at this point, we're not asking you to include an EDI statement in the research proposal, but this is a clear goal of something we'd like to help you be able to craft within the training program and incorporate into, for example, future funding competitions you apply for. So yes, this is something that the trainees are looking to achieve through the training program.
But if I can jump in, if you
Yes.
already have considerations, if
Yes.
your research is EDI strong, let's say, by all means, please flag that for us as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Emily. Um, so Equa asks, to be a D2R scholar, is there an opportunity for graduate researchers pursuing research in public health? Yes. Um, Absolutely, as long as the research you're pursuing in public health is aligned with the priority disease areas or one of D2R's axes. And we highly encourage people kind of not in the traditional RNA therapeutics or genomics streams of research to apply, as this is something we're really trying to build a strong cohort for within D2R. Julia asks, you mentioned that the applicants will be separated by axes. Is there a specific amount of scholarships per axis? Or you will give the scholarships to the best applicants no matter what axis they choose? And so please feel free to jump in here, Emily, if you want. I will try to answer this. So all applicants will be scored by expert reviewers. And then these will be tried to separate by axes. And then all these applicants will be discussed at the level of D2R Student Training and Knowledge Development Committee. And then this is where the actual distribution of the awards to the highly evaluated applicants will be determined. And so this means that we will likely, given how the awards are being evaluated and separated during the evaluation, we are looking to fund people across all axes. And this will, at this point, likely roughly be proportional to the number of applications within each axis. And that's how it's operated kind of in the past in D2R. And whether more strategic decisions come out, that is something that will be discussed at the level of D2R's committees. I don't know, Emily, if you
Yeah,
wanted
I
to
can
jump in.
add
Yeah.
that we're the approach we're adopting is inspired from CIHR, notably where you have a certain cut point below which you don't go. But then there is also a strategic decision to make sure that there is broad representation. Again, inclusivity being one of our key axes at D2R across the range of research that is supported, but also across the range of folks that we want to be supporting. So the committee will be juggling with all those considerations in trying to make a diverse pool of applicants.
Thank you. Zyra asks, should we attach the certificates and posters and articles to the BioSketch file? This is not something we're asking for you to attach at this time. Of course, if this is something that if you've listed in the BioSketch and we want some more details on, we can ask you at a later time, but this is not something we're looking for you to attach at this point. An anonymous person asks, is there mobility restriction if they're in an international joint program that I would be physically at McGill at all times throughout my PhD? Yeah, the answer to this is no.
No,
Um,
I was
so-
nodding my head because they said they would not be at McGill, but you said you read they would be.
yes, they're not physically at McGill the whole time. As long as you're registered, my guidance would be as long as you're
Well,
registered in a McGill program. Emily, maybe you should handle
yeah,
this.
I think I'm thinking of the Bordeaux program, which is
Okay.
listed here. If in that particular year you're the full year in Bordeaux, but you're gonna eventually be getting your degree from McGill, I think we probably need to, you should
Yeah.
write to us and
Yes. Yeah.
we'll
Yeah. So
we'll look
whoever
into.
that
That is one of those
anonymous, yeah.
specific cases that
Yes.
we need to look into with our funding agreements to see
Yeah.
whether we can actually, how we can get the money to, if
Yes.
we
Yeah.
can get the money to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Emily, for that. So yeah, so in your case, whoever you are, please write to us with some more details about the program you're in, and we'll be happy. I'll talk with other members of the D2R funding programs team and get back to you with specific guidance. Would non-thesis masters qualify to apply? Um,
Again,
so,
maybe I can
yeah,
jump in. So
yeah.
I'm thinking of specific cases like the MSc-PH, the Masters of Science in Public Health at McGill is a non-thesis master's, but it is a research-based master's. So I think that would be, this is again, great questions,
Mhm.
something we need to consider in our adjudication process. My leaning would be to say yes, if it leads to a research career potentially, which is the case, as I said, the MSc-PH at McGill
Yeah.
has a practicum associated with it, and it's been recognized as it can lead to a PhD. So I would say in those cases, yes. In the cases where this is a terminal degree, probably no. But
Yes,
again,
because yeah, as part of this, because a core element of the application is a research proposal, so that means that there's a research component to the programs that the people were funding. So usually, please, if you could provide by email some more details, and we can provide you some more specific guidance. I ask people to not ask specific questions, and then reading out all the specific questions. Jean-Philippe asks, are trainees currently holding a fellowship automatically disqualified, or they will be required to drop their current fellowship if successful at D2R? Um, so in this case, we are instructing people who currently hold federal or provincial funded applications to not apply as they're not eligible because they already have a very well-funded um, fellowship. And however, of course, these people are still welcome to join into the training program activities. A specific case that I will highlight here is that if a student is receiving funding within a D2R project, those people are eligible to apply, at which point they'll receive the D2R Scholar Award if they are successful, and they will no longer receive funding through the D2R program grant that their professor has. Um, Someone asks, my program provided, this is an important question for international students. My program provided me with a grid to calculate a McGill CGPA for my foreign transcript. Can I do that myself or they need to do it? Also, I completed a semester away during my bachelor's, but my grades didn't count towards my CGPA. Do I need to provide that transcript too? And does my program have to calculate an equivalent or can I do it? So in this case, I would suggest that you include the transcript with the GPA you have as well, because I would just include every version of the transcript you can. So with the McGill GPA as well as the table and your initial transcripts. So I would, I'm not sure, Emily, if you have some guidance on the transcript that didn't contribute to their GPA. I don't think that's necessary in this case.
no.
Um, Should we mention a degree that we didn't complete? I would say that if you feel during this period that you received experience that is relevant to D2R, then yes, I would advise you include it. However, you're trying to build up this anonymous person the strongest application you can. So if you feel that this may be or if this is something that might be important to discuss in the optional leave or situation form, please do so there. But if you feel that this would weaken your application, then I would just honestly suggest you not include it. Um, do you have advice on how to decide what community engagement activities are relevant to be included in the biosketch? Um, Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, I was gonna post, so I didn't want to just jump in, but we have an outward facing action plan that is coming in soon, and I think I saw Marilou was in the audience. So I'm not sure, I cannot recall now if it's going to come out in time. Anyway, the point is we would like to invite you to have a look at the DNA, the D2R EDI section and consider this in your application. See what you feel this really has to come from you. What is most pertinent to both your trajectory and also what you bring to the D2R. So see how that connects across those activities. And I see Marilou is there and don't mean to put you on the spot, Marilou, but if you have specific advice. So Marilou is our senior EDI officer. And so I thought there's no better person to answer live on this matter. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Barely.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So, yes, so we're going to have our external facing EDI action plan that will be on our website eventually, but I don't think by
Okay.
the date, by June 20th. However, community engagement activities that are encouraged to be shared in this process could be anything that you did around mentoring, around helping out a community, if you're linked to, I don't know, a community organization where you volunteer and you're making younger people explore or discover your passion for studying at McGill, things like that, that are that often a lot of people from underrepresented groups will take part in. We're interested uh, in looking at these things because it's important time that some people put out there in the community and that will be valued in the evaluation. I don't know if that answers better the question.
Thank you. And I'll put some resources also in the chat, in the general chat, not just in the Q&A, on guidance on EDI and coming from the SHIRC, the organization that funds this group, the New Frontiers in Research Fund. So it's CIFREF and NFREF are similar, and also from the DORA, the San Francisco DORA. So your activities, how to talk about impact in your research in ways in a broader perspective. Thank you, Marie-Lou, for coming in.
Thank you, McGill.
My pleasure.
So the next question we will answer is, in the research proposal, can I write data that I am anticipating or planning to have in the study design or method? And I would say this is exactly what you should explain the objective, and if explaining the types of data and the methods you're planning to acquire them with, that's a critical component of the research proposal. We're not just looking for the questions, but we're also looking for you to explain what you anticipate, because that might lead to another research question that's part of your project, as well as the initial question might not be what is relevant to D2R. For example, if you're doing something very fundamental, that's you're hoping will lead to something that, for example, is a target for an RNA therapeutic. That's like, so it's important to link your anticipated results as the results in your degree, if you're in an early stage, will all build on each other. Um, Again, a specific question, but I think one that has some relevance to a lot of people is they just got accepted to McGill, but they're starting in spring of 2026. Can I apply? Unfortunately, in this iteration for this year of the D2R Scholars Awards, we're looking for people who are both enrolled and already started in their program of study. So I would highly encourage this person to attend D2R training events if you're interested in learning more and hopefully applying for the next year's version of the Scholar Awards. As I didn't mention this earlier, but this is an annual competition we are planning to run. And so someone asked, can you explain the two types of scholarships other than the Master's and Doctoral Scholar Award? So I believe this is in reference to the two different programs I mentioned that have built-in training awards. So these are grants that professors have applied for to fund research programs within their group. And then both of these programs, the Foundational and Research in Motion and the Translational Impact Research programs, are large funds that include training budgets to help support the stipends of the graduate students and postdocs on those projects. So that's not something you can, as a trainee, apply for directly. That would be something that if your professor applied for a D2R grant or is interested in, then that's how you would become involved in those types of projects. If we align with more than one axis, what will be assessed in those two different groups separately or just in one? So what we ask you to do in the application form is to put the axis that is most well aligned with your research, and that's what we'll first divide you with. And then there's a supplemental question about other axes that you are aligned with. And there you can specify, and if we get, for example, in a certain axis, many applications, maybe we'll use that second axis to further divide you, but mainly you're evaluated within your first axes. But if you put multiple axes, the onus is on you to draw a clear link between your research and each of those axes that you have included. Reference letters are not, someone asked, are reference letters required? In this version of the D2R Scholars Program, because we're looking for that very quick turnaround, reference letters are not a required component of the application. Someone asks, in case we don't have any publications yet, can we mention articles we're working on? This is not something that we've really discussed. This is this is a bit of a debate in the fields. Typically, for professors, for grants they apply for, they don't put articles in preparation. Now, I'm hoping that if you have an article in preparation, you've presented this project at a conference or through some other mechanism, and you can highlight it there. But we obviously think if you do include a publication that's in preparation, this will not be evaluated by the reviewers on the same level as a published article will be. Although at this time, I'm not going to say don't include it because, but maybe within the letter of motivation, that might provide an opportunity for you to explain a bit more detail to that reviewer of what stage that project is at if you feel it's relevant to your experience in the D2R program.
Yeah, I think typically if things have been presented at conferences, you have that in your letter or in your CV, but also if they're under review, papers you're working on, it can be so many different stages that it's a little bit more too much nuance for that kind of process.
Someone asked, if you apply for a PhD award renewal, will it be considered in the competitive pool with new applicants? No. Currently, the plan is for this to have a separate, shorter reapplication process where you list and explain your research progress to build on your package, your application package at this stage, and then kind of explain what you've gained from the D2R training program and your experience. So the short answer is no, you'll not be considered with new applicants. There'll be a separate application process for a renewal. Someone asked, how important is it to have publications? I would say that publications are just one element of what is being included in the biosketch. And in general, these awards are looking to fund people at the relatively early stages of their academic degrees at the start. For example, in the master's, if you're in your master's after 1 year, it would be amazing if you had a publication, but realistically, after 1 year of your master's, you're likely not going to have a publication, and that's okay. And we're looking for people also at the outset of their PhD or 2 or 3 years into their PhD. But I just wanted to highlight, if you have publications from undergraduate research experiences or other ways you shared your research at conferences, do include that, as that will help build your profile. If I'm a doctoral student and I did a full master's, not fast tracks, are grades from my bachelor's and or master's considered? Yes, we would like you to include all academic degrees or there's in the biosketch, if you look, there's an academic history that you can input this information, and then we're looking for you to attach those transcripts. The final question currently is, would it be possible to get the recordings for this Zoom meeting? So this meeting is being recorded. If you're interested in getting the recording, email us. I'm not sure Emily, our fantastic senior communications officer, is taking care of that. I'm not sure how it will be able to be distributed, but we are looking to make this to be able to distribute. So whoever this is, please get in touch with us. And if you're interested in the recording, we'll make sure you know where to find it, or we'll send it to you directly. And so I believe that perfect timing gets us through all of the questions. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email us at d2rtraining@mcgill.ca. If you're having trouble finding the link to the Scholar Awards program, this QR code, please quickly take a picture of it. We'll get you to the more information, as well as please use the very well done D2R D2R website, where you'll find information about different initiatives within D2R, upcoming events, that we have at D2R, as well as other details about what research is aligned with D2R to help guide that part of your application. So with that, I'd like to thank you all very much for participating, and good luck in your applications, and we look forward to seeing them and starting the D2R Scholars Program in fall 2025. Thank you.
Un grand merci and good luck with your applications. Bye, everybody.